Hey, I'm Lisa Canning. I am a speaker, author, and a coach. And if you have ever struggled with fear and letting fear stop you from doing what you really want, this video is for you. So I'm really excited to share with you my 37-week baby delivery story. This is Colleen. Oh, Colleen, look. Oh, that was a very well-timed burp, Colleen. And Colleen was born in early January, and it has been quite the last couple of weeks, as you know, if you've been following along. She was born 3 weeks early, and then she was back in hospital with RSV. So I'm very, very, very happy to report that she is extremely chubby. I've been to the doctor now twice to be reassured that she is completely fine. Her lungs are good, and she's gaining all kinds of weight. But this is all to say that I really wanted to share this story with you guys. I really wanted to share my labor and delivery story, and I had intended to share it right after it happened because it was honestly one of the most powerful experiences I have ever gone through in my adult life, for sure. And it taught me a lesson that, like, I could cry just talking about it. It taught me a lesson that, truthfully, it sounds dramatic, and I promise I'm not just saying this to be dramatic or flippant or whatever, but it truthfully taught me a lesson that I think has changed the course of my future forever. All right, so I want to tell you the story. I think it's somewhat humorous. I have to kind of read some of it off of my phone, off of a blog post I wrote. I can link the blog post for you later on in the notes below, because now it's totally hazy. All the chronology is totally hazy. But I want to share with you the timeline, because, oh my word, was this timeline something epic. So Colleen is our 8th baby, and all of our other children were born in Canada. So I did have a little bit of mild fear and mild just, navigating an American medical system when I am brand new to the country, as well as I had all of my babies at the exact same hospital in Canada, like exact same routine. We used to stop at the exact same McDonald's every single time we had a baby, and I would get like an ice cream and French fries. And then we kiboshed that plan because on one of my labors, I want to say my 4th baby or my 5th baby, probably 4th though, I was in such active labor that I was like holding the side of the car saying to myself, why did we stop at McDonald's? Anyways, so as you can imagine, I felt a little bit of insecurity and all kinds of just like fear of the unknown, giving birth in a brand new situation. I hadn't even visited the hospital, all those things. Okay. So I want to share that with you so that you understand how in denial I was about giving birth, because my due date was January 20th. So I was like, in my head, I was like, my parents are here for Christmas. I'm going to, in the month of January, make sure that I go and check out the hospital, get acquainted, like figure out where I'm going, all those kinds of things, pack a hospital bag, right? And so Christmas Eve, I cooked food for like, I don't know, a lot of people. And on Christmas Eve, I felt all kinds of pain. But I was like, no, it's okay. Like, it's just because I cooked like a meal for all kinds of people, for all of my family. So I kind of ignored it and was like, no big deal. Christmas Day, same thing. We had gone to church the night before. I had, cooked up a storm. So I kind of was like, oh no, I'm just like achy because it's Christmas, of course. And like, I have 7 children. So of course I have pain all over. My baby is not due for another 3 weeks. So there's absolutely no way this could be any form of labor. Absolutely not. Okay. January 1st, I remember I was sitting on the floor. So fast forward a couple days, right? January 1st, I recorded my very first podcast episode. I was so excited. And I was sitting on the floor of our walk-in closet because it was like one of the only quiet places in the house, right? All the kids are home. Everybody's like hyper from Christmas holidays, whatever. And I'm on the floor of the closet. And I remember thinking like, oh my gosh, like I'm in so much pain. I don't think I can get up. That was the first time, January 1st, that I was like, this is probably labor. Like, oh my gosh, like this is probably labor. But again, I was like, nope, baby's not due for another 3 weeks. So there's no, baby's not due for 3 weeks. So again, I didn't think anything of it. And I was just so excited to record my very first podcast episode. So I was like, there's no way. Like, I'm just excited. I've got all kinds of hormones, da, 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 da. Okay, here we go. Are you ready? January 2nd, okay? January 2nd. Oh my word. Okay, so the afternoon of January 2nd. So again, I had been feeling all kinds of pain throughout the Christmas holidays. January 1st, sitting there recording my podcast episode, feeling like, whoa, wowza. I'm in a lot of pain. January 2nd, 4:00. That was the very first time I was like, oh, like, did I just pee my pants? Like, what just happened down there? So then I was like, Googling like what it meant. And can I just remind you, I've had 7 children in the past, right? So I knew exactly what was happening, but I was like, no. I've got 3 weeks. I've got 3 weeks until this baby is due. So that was like 4 p.m. 6 p.m. My niece is visiting from Canada and she's over and I'm like, oh my gosh, something's happening. But I'm like, no, there's no way. But maybe have your phone on, Riley, just in case I do go into labor and you need to come over and like stay with the kids, right? But I remember like, and again, I Googled, I was like, is this normal? And how long can labor, be out from once you start having anything like a mucus blood or a bloody show or what have you? And I found one random website that said it could be weeks away. I was in such denial. Like I was like, there is no way I am pregnant. I mean, I'm no way I'm in labor. Like 0 way. So I sent my niece home. And I remember it was still, the holidays, right? So my husband's enjoying a drink and he kind of gave me like the side eye. This is like after my niece went home. And he's like, should I stop drinking? Like, are you in labor? And I was like, no, there's no way I'm in labor, even though I was in so much pain. I was in like so uncomfortable. And I'm pretty sure he was like, okay, I'm going to stop drinking and I'm going to go to bed because if you are in labor, I better be rested and we better like, be prepared. Oh my gosh. And I'm still here being like, no, I just need to take like a warm bath. I'm just going to go take a bath and lie down. There's no way I am in labor. 10 p.m. I've taken a bath and I decide that this is the perfect time to work through the entire Die Hard series, the Die Hard movie series. Let me know in the comments if you love that movie series. This is around 10 o'clock, right? And I'm in bed and I literally can't get comfortable. Like I cannot, I'm like in no way comfortable, just so much pain. And that's when I finally admitted at 11 p.m. Yippee-ki-yay, I'm in labor. So at 11 o'clock, I run upstairs. I get my husband up and I remember I had to be like, he was sleeping in our guest room. And I was like rousing him awake. I was like, get up. And he was like, get up for what? He was so confused. And I was like, get up. It's time to have the baby. And he was like, what? I didn't have a hospital bag. And, I don't know. Let me know in the comments if you've had multiple kids. But sometimes you still like forget what you need for the hospital. So I was like, what do I need to bring? I think I packed the most random things. Like, all I know is that I was like, oh my gosh, you've been in denial and you're in full on labor. And you're going to a hospital that you've never been to before. You do not know the route even. We have to like GPS the hospital route, And again, I just want to remind you, I did the exact same thing, knew exactly where to go, stopped at the same McDonald's for all my other babies. So I was feeling like all this just racing thoughts about the unknown, blah, blah, blah. Okay. So, but I managed to pull together a hospital bag. I managed to record the quickest of videos. That was fun to record because I was like panting because I was in full on contractions. Okay. Midnight. We are in the van. And I live about 40 minutes from the hospital, right? And so it's midnight, so I knew there probably wouldn't be any traffic and whatever. And I have had an epidural every single other time I have given birth, okay? Every single time. And this is not to debate the merits of an epidural or anything. It was just sort of like what I was comfortable with. And then, a few times along the way, in my other children, I thought, oh, maybe I should like try it without. And then I was just like, forget it. These contractions are pretty gosh darn powerful. So just to give you a sense of how powerful these contractions were, I live in a town that has like a main entryway to the main street, right? So it's about a 5-minute drive from my house to where this main street is to get to the hospital. So I was like closing my eyes, breathing through the pain. My husband is like asking me, can you text Riley and be like, here's where the bottles are, the sippy cups. And I just remember shooting him the fastest response and being like, I am just focused on my pain management right now. Thank you. And I remember closing my eyes, breathing through a contraction, feeling this intense, what felt very intense, and thinking, oh, okay, it's all right. We're like halfway to the hospital. We're halfway to the hospital. And I remember opening my eyes and we were just at the main street. We had only been driving for 5 minutes, just to give you a sense of just how uncomfortable I was. All right. So then, now again, just random backstory. I'm in America now, right? And so we were still working out insurance things like while we were moving down. And so I had talked before we moved down to all my girlfriends who had had natural births, even to people who had births at home. I was like, tell me what it's like to have a baby naturally, just in case the insurance doesn't work out, I don't have the money, whatever. Like if I want to save money on an epidural, because again, different kind of healthcare system, right? If I want to save money on an epidural, tell me what it's like to have a natural birth, right? And so that was pretty funny. My girlfriends were all like, oh my gosh, you can do it. Like, you're the possibility mom. You've moved countries. Like, you could totally do this. But I was in complete, like, I don't want to say denial, but I just mean disbelief. I was like, how on earth am I going to go through that much pain? Like, I just remember being like, wow, that's great for you, but I don't think that I can do that. Again, 7 times. 7 times I allowed medicinal, like, chemicals to numb my entire, bless you, to numb my entire bottom half. I just was like, there's no way. Like, there's no way. There's no way I can do that, right? This has been the story that I had told myself and informed myself for 7 previous births. Okay. So, but I was open to it. I was like open. I was like, okay, you know what? If the time presents itself, whatever, like, yeah, I will consider having a natural birth. As we were driving, I was like, there's still going to be time for an epidural. It's going to be fine. But these were the most excruciating contractions I had ever felt in my entire life. And I remember when we were still in my town, like I mentioned, and I was going through that intense pain, I remember thinking to myself, okay, Lisa, you've got a choice. Like, you've got a choice, literally. It's 40 minutes. You're in the most intense pain you have ever felt in your entire life. You have a choice in how you respond right now. And I remembered what one of my girlfriends said when I had talked to her about, like, okay, let's say insurance doesn't work out, and or even if just if I want to consider having a natural birth, what do I do? And this is my beautiful friend Anna. And Anna said to me, it's not pressure. Sorry. And Anna says to me, it's not pain, it's pressure. And I remember just being like, Anna, like, come on. Like, come on. Of course it's pain. And she was like, mm-mm. What if you can imagine it's pressure, it's your body doing its thing, getting you closer to your baby. It's not pain, it's pressure. So like I said, I'm in the most excruciating, like intense feeling of my life. Never felt a contraction like this before previously because I had always gotten to the hospital with more than enough time to have an epidural. So I hadn't really felt very much. We are now 40 minutes away and I know that like it's going to be an excruciating drive. And so what I did in the car, sitting in the passenger seat, my husband is driving beside me. He is panicked. Oh my word, the look on his face. Because he can see how uncomfortable I am. And I'm squirming and I'm trying to get comfortable and I'm breathing. I'm doing all the things that like you're supposed to do that you see in the movies kind of thing. And I had a moment where I literally was like, all right, it's not pain, it's pressure. And I used the phrase, I can't wait to meet you, baby. I can't wait to meet you, baby. And all of a sudden, it went from pain to pressure. I know this sounds ridiculous, but as soon as I switched my thinking from this is pain and I'm afraid to this is pressure that's getting me closer to my baby, I'm not even kidding, the pain subsided. Like it didn't feel like pain. It felt like pressure. And I use that expression over and over again. I just can't wait to meet you, baby. I just can't wait to meet you, baby. I would close my eyes and I would sort of like almost picture this like cyclical motion. Like, I just can't wait to meet you, baby. I just can't wait to meet you, baby. And the contractions would feel like pressure. And I remember during the drive, there were about 2 times where I got scared again, where we didn't know where we were going. I remember my husband was like, can you pull out your phone and GPS where the hospital is? Is it this building, right? And I was like, oh my gosh, I'm so afraid. Like, we're not going to get there in time. Like, and as soon as the fear, like as soon as I allowed thoughts of fear to kick in, it felt like pain. I don't know how else to describe it. It might sound strange or what have you, but that is just the gosh darn truth. As soon as I switched my thinking from this is so much pain and I think I'm going to die to I just can't wait to meet you, baby, everything changed. Okay, so fast forward, we get to the hospital. He drops me off at the front. I go to the check-in, which is all different, right? Because I've never experienced this before. It's very cool. In the hospital where I gave birth, they like know you're coming. It wasn't like that in my hospital in Canada, meaning that I was already registered. Everything was in there. I didn't have to present anything. I mean, did I present I must have had to present an ID because anyway, I'm sure I presented something. I don't remember. But it was very swift. My experience in Canada was like you went to like a triage room and da da da. It was probably swift because they could tell I was in labor, so that's probably why it was swift. Anyways, they ushered me into this bathroom where they're like, "Here, put on this gown," and I just remember being like, "It is a miracle that I am still standing." Like I was in the I was making the most bizarre sounds. I sounded like a full-on cow. Like I was just like, I just can't wait to meet you, baby. Like I sounded ridiculous. Oh my word. Anyways, in the bathroom, trying to figure out this this hospital gown, which again, never I don't know what was with this Florida hospital like gown. It had like random buttons. Couldn't figure it out. Is all I'm trying to say. Could not figure it out. And between that and the contractions and getting myself undressed, I found myself on the floor of the bathroom with this adorable little 5-foot nurse saying, "Honey, you got to get him off the floor. You can't have the baby in the bathroom." So between her and my husband, they're ushering me into an exam room, and I'm on the exam thing. And in my head, I'm like, there's still time for an epidural. If I really want to, I can still have an epidural. The beautiful nurse turns to me and says, well, you're 10 centimeters. You are 10 centimeters. We are now at 12:55 a.m. Okay. 12:55 a.m. You are 10 centimeters. It's time to have the baby now. No epidural. And I remember, again, I had this feeling of like, oh my gosh, I'm going to experience giving birth without an epidural. And I had to use the exact same strategies. Sorry, one second. We're going to just, I'm recording this for my podcast, everybody. So that's why I've got this little microphone on. So I'm going to keep the microphone over here. And you've got a live TV. All right. And then I'm going to nurse her. Stand by. Stand by, everybody. Stand by. 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 There we go. The rest of the story is really good. Okay, there we go. Okay, so actually that makes no sense where I put that, but that's okay. Hold on, wait. Oh, can't figure it out. So here we go. So when I realized, oh my gosh, I'm going to have a natural birth, that's when my brain went into high gear. Like, I just was like, okay, I don't know what to expect. I don't know what that's going to feel like. I used that exact same expression over and over and over again. I just can't wait to meet you, baby. I just can't wait to meet you, baby. I just can't wait to meet you, baby. And she came out in one incredible push, like just literally one. And it was like the most powerful thing I've ever experienced in my life. The feeling of her actually leaving my body and coming into the world. Again, I had never felt that before. All my other babies, I could feel a little bit of pressure with an epidural, but I couldn't really feel when they said, like, here's another contraction, okay, push. Couldn't feel it. Like, meaning I could feel a little bit of the pressure. I could feel the baby moving, but I couldn't feel what I felt without an epidural. So I remember what it, like, just the feeling of her leaving my body and coming into the world in one, like, it was like a tidal wave, like one big motion, one big, I just can't wait to meet you, baby. And then she came into the world. And it was here's where it was very different from my epidural experiences. With the epidural, I would have an epidural and then we would both take a nap. Me and my husband would take a nap, literally. So he would like listen to a podcast. He always had like many podcasts that he would put onto his phone, and I would take a nap. And then I write about this in my book, The Possibility Mom, how the lights would all turn on, the doctors would come into the room, everybody sort of, it's like a ceremony. Like, everybody's excited because it's time, and you wake up and it's time to push. Whereas this was absolutely different. This was like, I remember at 1:20 a.m. So we got to the hospital at 11:45 or 12:45 approximately. I was on the exam table at 12:55, and then she was out by 1:20. Like, come on, I have never had a birth experience like that before. But what was very different compared to my epidural birth was that my husband and I were like, oh my gosh, that's it? Like it's over? Like, it was so incredibly fast. And then, of course, you know, we met her and we fell in love and all these things. And the thing that I want to share with you that I feel so strongly about is the power our thoughts have over pain and over fear, and then what that looks like in influencing our reality. Okay? Like, whoa. Like, just think about that for a minute. 7 times I allowed chemicals to be put into my body to numb me because I did not think it was possible for me to give birth naturally. When we got through that experience, and I realized oh my gosh, Lisa, you never thought you could do this before. And you just did something with success that had an incredible outcome, that had the outcome of beautiful Colleen. And so many times before, you didn't think it was possible and you did it. I remember driving home from the hospital. Actually, no, I thought this in the hospital too. I just remember thinking, what else have I been telling myself that I cannot do? And because of fear, I have not allowed myself to even try. I'm going to repeat myself because I think it bears repeating. What else in my life have I told myself there's no way you can do that? And because of fear, I have not even tried. As a result of experiencing that incredible experience of almost instant, to be honest, no, it was instant thoughts, influencing my feelings, influencing my actions, influencing my reality. I was like, how have I never realized this before? Like, how have I never articulated how important, or how have I never examined, especially in areas that I'm resisting making progress in? How have I never realized this before? And honestly, since she was born, I have felt, like, with the exception of the hospital stay, because that threw us obviously for a whole loop, but I remember especially the days after giving birth, feeling honestly unstoppable. And you know what? I take it back, because even when she was back in hospital again with RSV, which was incredibly difficult, by the way, because I just felt like, oh my gosh, like, she's so small. And they were talking about such serious things like intubating her and spinal taps. And I was just like, that's too much. But I do think that the experience of giving birth and feeling unstoppable in a way, and feeling like my thoughts have such an impact on how I process reality, 100% helped us get through that period where she was in hospital. Because honestly, when you think about it, an experience like that, when your child is ill, and thanks be to God that it was just quote unquote RSV. Not to take away from my own experience or belittle my emotions, but I know there are some of you here who are subscribers to my channel who have, I know there's some of you here who follow me who have children with leukemia, who have children with cancer, who are in marriages that have very serious mental illness. Like, these things can derail us. These things can make us doubt who we really are. But I want to share with you, and I feel so passionate about this. Our thoughts, like, we have so much control over how we respond to situations, how we think about a situation, and therefore how we will process and endure that situation. What is at stake here if we don't manage our thoughts well? What's at stake if we always live in fear? What's at stake if we let fear be the driving factor in how we make decisions? In my humble opinion, what is at stake is us living our most ideal life. Since moving down here to Florida, we have had our fair share of challenges, just like the regular challenges of, figuring things out, new medical system, new way of dealing with paying for medical, new friendships, where to get groceries, where to even go for simple things like haircuts, obviously, all those kinds of things. And then, of course, experiencing the lack of security, of familiarity. My parents, many of the friends we had, all these things. We've had some financial hardships. There's been all kinds of the lack of childcare. I've been talking about it. If you've been following me here, you know that I've been talking about this quite a bit, and just how challenging it's been. But the experience with Colleen honestly ignited something in me And I can see the impact of it. I can see that even in the experience in hospital with Colleen, we still made progress on things. We still kept things moving in other areas of our life, in business and with our children. And this is not to say, I feel very strongly about this as well. This is not to say that, if you need to rest or you need to take a break from something, that you make a conscious decision to do that, of course. But that when we can respond to a bad situation with thoughts that allow us to be resilient and keep moving, this is a skill that we need to acquire. This is a skill that will set us up for success. This is a skill that will help us to be abundant. This is a skill that can honestly get us through anything. And, when I used to hear the word mindset, I used to be like, this is just mumbo jumbo. Like, I remember, like, as a Catholic, and I would hear the word mindset, I would be like, this is like too new agey for me. And this like takes God's will or his plan for my life out of it. Like, I'm not even going to like entertain any conversations or any like just stuff like that. I'm just going to leave that. Stay the heck away from me. I'm not going to entertain those kinds of conversations. And so I'm sharing that with you because I used to think that potentially conversations around mindset and how what we can sort of will into existence didn't comply with God's will or didn't comply with surrendering my life to Jesus. And what I understand now is that God gave us the mind and God wants us to use our minds in the best way for us. And that experience of almost instant, like practically instant, changing my thoughts from being afraid to then this is pressure, this is not pain, this is pressure, that instant feeling of what it felt in my body, and then my ability to endure that experience and give birth and then have this incredibly powerful, profound, wonderful birth experience that I had missed out on, honestly, 7 times before, I just think is pretty remarkable. P.S. The recovery, also so much better. I've heard it said that an epidural like takes away the pain in the experience of giving birth, but then you get the pain after in the recovery. And the opposite is true. When you don't have an epidural, you have the pain, quote unquote, during your labor, but then your recovery is so much better. And I could not agree with that more. My recovery, oh my word. And again, I'm not trying to argue here nor there. Like, I'm not trying to say like epidural for the win or natural birth for the win. I think you have to do what makes sense for you. But oh my word, if I had known that the recovery on the other end would be just wonderful, like I would have, like it just really like changed my thought on what it's like to have a natural birth. So anyways, just food for thought. The recovery was so much better for having a natural birth. Okay, I think she's done eating. Let's see, is she done eating? Oh my word! Oh, Colleen, look at there's nothing like a sleeping baby. Why am I whispering? You can't hear me. There's nothing like a sleeping baby. Goodness. Okay, I'm going to put the microphone back. Thanks, guys, for joining me for these lives that, entertaining things happen, like this kind of thing. So, okay, so where do I want to end? I want to end with sharing with you why this all matters and how we can use neuroscience, like use what God has designed for the brain for our benefit. All right. So I believe that everyone has their most ideal life. And what stops people from living it and not living it is fear. In the last chapter of my book, The Possibility Mom, I really expand on this quite a bit. I didn't write the book. Like I didn't, it took me 2.5 years to write that book because I was so afraid to put it out into the universe. It took me months to hire a PR team because I was too afraid to put it out into the universe. I could go on and on about different things in my life that I have wanted to launch and knew that like it would be amazing once I did, but I allowed fear to get in the way. I really do believe that fear is what stops us from living the life that we are meant to live. And the tools to combat fear are in our reach. It's not like you have to go to school and get like a degree in psychology or something to master fear. We can all master fear, and it simply starts with our thoughts and changing our thoughts and our perspective, honestly, on certain situations. And so let me make this like super practical for you. Okay. And feel free to let me know in the comments, and I'd be happy to like answer them in the comments later on. What is something in your life that you know you want and you know could be amazing, but you are so afraid? And the way that we can change our thinking is simply, in my opinion, and there are many different teachers out there on mindset and what we need to do to our thoughts. I'll link some of my favorite people below. We have to move. Like the best way to combat fear is to start moving in that direction and acting anyways. That is how courage is formed, by just doing it. Like you don't practice courage by saying, I'm going to be courageous today. You practice courage by doing something and being okay that you don't know exactly what the outcome is, and being okay that you don't care what people might think of you because of what you do. Because here is the opposite, okay? When we, and I am not an expert by any means in neuroscience, but I've done enough of my own personal study, and I have incredible mentors right now. January Donovan, one of my favorite right now, on this whole topic and this whole understanding of the brain. When we live in fear, the part of the brain that deals with fear, the amygdala, I always say it wrong, literally produces cortisol that then releases into our bodies, that keeps us from doing anything. This whole notion of fight or flight, when you're in a situation and you're like, oh my gosh, am I going to fight or am I going to run away? Like that is cortisol. Cortisol comes from that. When you are feeling like, oh my gosh, I'm just afraid. What happens when there's a whole bunch of cortisol coursing through our bodies? We kind of shut down and we look for things to like maybe entertain us or to provide small little hits of pleasure, release a little bit of dopamine. But that's not curing the underlying problem, which is a whole bunch of cortisol. And so then what happens? We are exhausted because cortisol takes a significant hit on our bodies, on our adrenal glands. We can't live on constant cortisol in our bodies all the time. We also, this is something that January says all the time, we can't create when we are feeling in this place of fear. We can't move forward. We can't move towards our most ideal life because we're so gosh darn afraid. This is what is at stake if we don't master our thoughts, especially around fear. So how do we do it? We keep moving. We reframe things in our brain. We develop scripts, literally develop things that we can say. Like I said in the hospital, I just can't wait to meet you, baby. This isn't pain, it's pressure. I just can't wait to meet you, baby. That small shift in our thinking, instead of saying, I'm so afraid this isn't going to work, to, for example, I just can't wait to meet you, baby, can have such powerful impact on our ability to make progress. Okay. So let's take it away from childbirth for just a second. Let's transfer it to something like moving. Okay. Okay. You want to move to Florida. We had this dream in our hearts to be literally right here where I'm sitting in this exact spot across from the lake. Like I'm looking out at it right now. When we first, like at some point when we came down to this town to visit. And I just remember being like, oh, there's no way. I kept saying this to myself. There's no way this is going to happen. There's no way this is going to happen. We don't have enough money. How on earth are we going to move from Toronto as Canadians to Southwest Florida? We don't have the support systems, blah, 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 blah. And I just lived in that for many years. And then finally, we started taking small steps. We started figuring out how to build wealth. We started figuring out how we could have enough money. We started figuring out the legal processes. And we have a whole bunch of videos on the process. And I promise I will do one. I see the comment here on moving from Toronto to Florida or from Canada to the United States and legally how you do that. We started moving. And instead of being overwhelmed and looking at this huge list, I started thinking. So I started changing my thoughts to what is the first thing I can do? What is the first thing I can do in order to make progress? Another one of my business mentors is somebody named Ryan Levesque. And he talks a lot about how entrepreneurs sometimes want to be like, I'm going to be a millionaire this year. And he uses a personal example where he had in a piece of paper or something like that, every single day he would read, my name is Ryan Levesque and I make $20,000 a month. And he shared recently with me that all this did, and he did that for 6 months, by the way, for 6 months, and it didn't happen. And he shared with me recently that what that did was put his brain into fight or flight. It was too large a number for it to seem attainable. And so then the brain actually didn't look for the questions or the possibilities or the pathway in order to do that. But when he adjusted that number instead of 20,000 to how can I make 500 this month, it was like the brain was like, I can do that. And it became more attainable. And then that 500 obviously grew to eventually his 20,000. I think it wasn't even that long after he shared recently that he hit his $20,000 a month mark. All of this is to say, and I think I'll leave it here. All of this is to say that our thoughts have so much power over our lives. And if we can train our brains in order to think in a place of abundance, to think in a place that is positive, to look at situations like recently when I was in hospital with Colleen, again, when she had RSV, like how can this be for me? It's going to serve us. It's going to get us closer to our most ideal life. And it can start with small incremental actions that can move us to where we want to go. If this was interesting to you, let me know in the comments. And if you are interested in the how, so like how do you, if you've been for years and years and years thinking negatively or living in fear and you really want to get out of it, let me know in the comments. I feel like there's a lot more to this conversation, 100%. But I really wanted to share with you just how powerful the experience of giving birth naturally and the experience of 7 times before thinking I could never do that and then doing it with success. And here's the other thing that's at stake. The success was this. Do you know what I mean? Like the success of doing something that you don't think you can do could be something incredible beyond your wildest dreams. And you can do it.